When I was a small child, my Uncle Alvin was engaged to a carnival stripper named Magdalena. It seemed like an impossibly glamorous lifestyle at the time, and it was only years later when I actually watched a carnival strip show for myself that I realized how horrific the prospect truly was. We arranged to meet in the TV lounge at the Black Regent. When I arrived, Alvin was wearing an oatmeal-colored shirt, staring dead-eyed at the flickering television in the corner. He had lost a lot of weight. The last time I saw him, he had grown so heavy, he could barely move. But now, he looked positively scrawny. He had an unkempt salt and pepper mustache, but his hair had been shaved to stubble. He gestured to a ravaged-looking woman in the adjacent easy chair with a cigarette. This is Brenda, my wife. She had a haggard, over-made-up face and looked like she had been poured into her dress. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She smiled queasily, and it seemed like a threat. By my reckoning, she must have been his 6th or 7th wife, depending on whether you counted the marriages that ran concurrently. A clear, unlabeled bottle sat on the kidney-shaped table between them. There were 3 glasses, but neither Alvin nor Brenda offered me a drink. "How's the family?" I shrugged. Most of them are in this fucking room. He snorted, coughed, and coughed up a mouthful of phlegm into a nearby flower pot. Now, the last time I saw Alvin, a couple of his ribs had been caved in an out-of-town cockfight run by a man named Wes Newman. Alvin still seemed to speak with a wheeze. "Tell the Carny I want to see him." He gestured toward a burlap sack under the table. It stank like Pankton Harbor at high tide. "Tell him I have something that belongs to him." The Carny in question was Eugene Delacroix III. Now, he wasn't a bad man, not the worst I've encountered, but bad enough. The last time I saw him, he nailed my left hand to a trunk freezer in the back room of the Dirty Lemon. Now, Eugene claimed it was a misunderstanding, but I have kept my distance ever since. Carnies often get a bad press in this town, but much of it is deserved. Last summer, a pair of them murdered a recently paroled sex offender known as Flesh Deep. Tried to dismember his body. The rooming house I was living in at the time was within spitting distance of where the yard where they hacked him up. I still remember the way my tap turned gray for the chunks of flesh that somehow lodged in the building's plumbing system. Locals have given the Carnies a wide berth ever since, and their rusted seaside attractions are mostly covered with tarpaulins this year. And I found Eugene in his static caravan, thumbing through a week-old Herald Express. His lips moved when he read, fingers trailing across the grubby newsprint. "What's new, Eugene?" He looked up, an amused look on his badly creased face. "Someone burned down Pete Hooper's glue factory." "Bloody shame, I always loved the smell of that place." He looked me up and down warily, and then he chuckled. "Oh, what can I do for you, young man?" "My Uncle Alvin is back in town. He says he has something that belongs to you." His eyebrows twitched. There was a Hidden grin stretched across his leathery face. He does now, does he? When he smiled properly with all his teeth showing, it looked positively obscene. How about we organize a little gentleman's soiree? I nodded. Eugene started to laugh and it sounded like hot blood gurgling down a plug hole. Several years ago, my uncle skipped town with Eugene's teenage stepdaughter, Trinket. She was bad news, even at that age. And the pair of them cultivated a serious mutual crack problem. Trinket went on the game to bankroll their habit, but she had to give up hooking after she got a pelvic abscess. She was working off the books at a tanning salon in Plymouth when a jumped-up, stick-up kid ripped a blade across her throat during a botched robbery attempt. Now, they never reported the killing. And the owner paid Alvin to dispose of her body, a grisly job he was only too happy to take on. One night, when Alvin was high, he telephoned Eugene and offered to sell his stepdaughter's body parts back to him one at a time. Unsurprisingly, Alvin hasn't been back to Pennington since. I agreed to meet Eugene at Pennington Yards. It was a hot day, one of the hottest of the year so far, and the glue factory was still smoldering on the horizon. The entire concrete sprawl smelled of old tires and rotten meat. Alvin was dragging a burlap sack behind him like a bad memory. Despite the sick heat, Eugene was wearing a battered up top hat, donkey jacket, and there were three men with him laughing and joking. I could see the brass knuckles glinting on their fists. Eugene looked neither happy nor sad, just blank. He leaned in close and slipped something into my back pocket. His breath felt hot and vile on my cheek, and his eyes looked empty. I won't forget this, young man. His voice sounded dry and raspy. I started to walk away, slowly, picking my way through the rubble. When I got to the main road, I turned around and Alvin shook a cigarette out of his pack and placed it in his mouth. He didn't light it. He nodded in my direction, and then the first man hit him. I fought the urge to be sick, swallowed it down and kept on walking. Later that night, Brenda banged on my door, eyes swollen and red-rimmed. She had sourced another bottle of the transparent booze she and Alvin had been drinking earlier in the week. Her makeup looked thicker than dirt. I gestured towards the yellow leatherette couch next to the window, and she sat down clumsily. I told her I didn't have any glasses, but she said that we could always drink out of the bottle. In the distance, I could hear boneyard dogs barking. They sounded hungry. I slammed the door and retreated inside. I later learned that Alvin's body was found in the long grass next to the dual carriageway. When the police found him, he had been doused in petrol, but not set on fire. The medical examiner said he technically died of a heart attack roughly at the same time that his feet were being sawed off at the ankles. I felt bad, but not bad enough to do anything about it. Alvin never did right by me. I sure as shit wasn't going to do right by him. In this life, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your fucking family.